We've got a little bit of breaking news. Eugene, as we were coming on the air, we learned that the House Select Committee investigating the January 6th insurrection has called its first hearing. It will be on July 27th. It's almost 7 months after the insurrection. And the first hearing will feature the law enforcement officials, the police officers whose bodies were mutilated by Trump supporters. What else do we know?
I mean, that's kind of what we know. We know that they are going to be looking into exactly what happened that day to these police officers and these law enforcement officials. They're going to talk to them, and we've heard from them a little bit, right? We've seen them, some of them in some other hearings. We've also seen them on air with you guys here on MSNBC. And what we continue to hear and continue to see as some of these lawsuits go through is how bad it really was for police officers and Capitol Police that day. Seeing them be beaten as Republicans continue to spread misinformation, disinformation, and whitewashing what happened that day, saying that it was a tourist event, that it wasn't that scary. We saw Megyn Kelly say something, that the media made the insurrection look worse than it was, that it wasn't actually an insurrection. And so on July 27th, this is, the first time that many of these officers are going to have their day and tell people just how scary it was, that these people weren't there just to walk through the rotunda, that they were there to hurt people, and that it was a very scary situation. And hopefully what we're hearing from people, especially Democrats on the Select Committee, is that they hope that this starts to open the eyes of Republicans. It seems difficult to see that as Republicans have pushed so far against any kind of action on January 6th.
Donna Edwards, something I asked Congressman Schiff about on this program is whether they would consider letting these hearings sort of speak for themselves, that it is the coverage of the insurrection that has been siloed into ideological echo chambers, if you will. And people that are interested in the facts watch the actual camera footage. I don't know how you can deny what cameras recorded that day, but they do, they do. And I wonder how important you think it is that this sort of unfiltered testimony from eyewitness participants is, and frankly, Kevin McCarthy hasn't made any picks. Even if he makes none, this is a bipartisan committee investigating. Liz Cheney is on the committee. She's as committed as all the Democrats who've been picked to getting to the truth of January 6th. I wonder what you make of the importance of the public seeing and hearing from these police officers in this new setting of congressional hearings.
Well, I think a presentation that just sort of walks step by step the experience of those officers on the ground and hearing that directly from them, seeing the video testimony or evidence that we will no doubt see. And I think that Chairman Thompson has made, Benny Thompson has made good on his call, saying that he's going to proceed with hearings, whether or not Kevin McCarthy actually makes appointments, just a presentation of the facts. And, the truth is that Republicans on Capitol Hill know exactly what happened that day. They may be trying to rewrite it or ignore it, but they know what happened that day. And it's important for the American people to see step by step so that they can understand how under threat our democracy was and is because of what happened on January 6th.
Yeah, Matt Dowd, I think that idea of an ongoing threat makes this investigation not just urgently needed 7 months out, but urgently needed in the moment, in the threat environment in which we live. The ex-president, by whatever the heck he uses to communicate, is churning out, vomiting out lie after lie after lie about the election. It is a fixture of his post-presidency to continue to lie about the election result. There are brush fires in Michigan. There are brush fires in Pennsylvania. There's the ongoing faux audit in Maricopa County, Arizona. It is an ongoing delusion that there was election fraud. And I thought one of the most important things the president did yesterday was fight for voting rights and fight against the big lie.
Well, I think it's completely apropos and very with some simile that we just heard this hearing's getting announced because there's a through line from January 6th, where there was an attempt to nullify an election, both by those protesters and insurrectionists and by people and Republicans in Congress, and to what's happening about voting rights around the country. It's a through line that you can connect all the dots in this various way in this. And so I was very happy about the president's speech. To me, I watched the president's speech and I've watched his actions. I had hoped more would have been done earlier. I'm glad more seems to be about to be done, but it's almost as if he's going through stages of grief about what the Republican Party fundamentally is. At first, I think he was in denial that they weren't really an autocratic party that was trying to overthrow the democracy. And then he started bargaining. Okay, I can figure this out and get this done. And then I think he became sad, like, oh my gosh, this is the really Republican Party. And now he's angry. And I think we'll finally get to acceptance of what the Republican Party today is. It is sad for me to say, as I know it is for you, to identify the Republican Party as an autocratic party that doesn't care about democracy anymore. But that's fundamentally where we're at today. And that's why, to me, January 6th is an extension, or is the beginning of this process of an attempt to take away people's voting rights and to nullify elections. And that's why we end up here in Texas. And to me, it's a great thing to see Texans. I live here. I've lived here for 35 years. Rise up and maybe push Washington to go forward. The last time that we had something fundamental done on voting rights was done by a Texan, LBJ, in the 60s. The last time it was done, when he pushed the people in Congress and the people in the Senate to get it done. So I think Joe Biden's speech was good. I'm glad he's angry. And now I hope to see various actions take place, including taking away the filibuster to protect voting rights.